as you all know, it is a vasculitic disorder. Okay, so what are the vasculitic disorders? We have small vessel vasculitis, we have medium vessel vasculitis, and we have large vessel vasculitis. It's just a revision. I've already covered vasculitis topic in my previous classes, but just to revise. Okay, so what is small vessel vasculitis? It is subdivided into two groups: immune complex and pauci-immune. Okay, so immune complex is classified as, one is HSP. What is HSP? Henoch Schwann purpura. Okay, then we have cryoglobulinemia, and third we have Goodpasture syndrome. So all these are immune complex vasculitis. What comes in medium vessel vasculitis? मीडियम वेसल में आता है आपका पैन एंड कावासाकी डिजीज. Okay, and third is your pauci-immune vasculitis, which is ANCA associated vasculitis. Okay, and in this we have B ANCA associated, which is microscopic polyangiitis. We have C ANCA vasculitis, which is Wegener's granulomatosis, also now called as granulomatosis with polyangiitis. And one more C ANCA vasculitis is Churg-Strauss syndrome. Okay. And third is your large vessel vasculitis. So what comes in large vessel vasculitis? In large vessel vasculitis comes Takayasu disease and giant cell arthritis. Okay, so these are the classification of vasculitis. So what we are dealing with, pauci-immune ANCA associated, in which we have Wegener's, MPA and Churg-Strauss. Churg-Strauss I have already covered. MPA questions are not must ask, but Wegener's is an important topic. So what are the key points in Wegener's granulomatosis? So when we talk about Wegener's granulomatosis, that is granulomatosis with polyangiitis, these are having cavitatory, these present as cavitatory or nodular lesions in the lung. Okay, it can mimic tuberculosis because there are cavitations, there are multiple nodules. Patient will present with fever, weight loss, all those characteristic symptoms like tuberculosis will be present here also. So it can mimic tuberculosis, but there will be poor response to your anti-tuberculosis drugs. So poor response to AKT. Okay, there is upper airway involvement, which is very important. So Wegener's is associated with upper airway involvement. That is 90% of these patients will have symptoms of sinusitis, recurrent sinusitis. Okay, they will have bilateral otitis media. They may complain of deafness. They may complain of subglottic stenosis. Okay, and they can be associated with Staphylococcus aureus infection. So everything associated with S. sinusitis, subglottic stenosis, staphylococcal infection. Okay, so 90% of the patients with vaginal will have upper airway involvement, that is recurrent rhinosinusitis will be there. Then there will be involvement of the eyes also, and there will be tarsal conjunctivitis. Okay, fifth, lungs we have already seen. There will be cavitation, there will be nodules, plus there will be renal involvement also. So along with lungs we have already seen cavitation, nodules, and along with lungs there will be renal involvement. Not necessary in all, but yes, most of the patients, 60% of these patients will have renal involvement, and when the kidney is involved, there will be presence of albuminuria in urine. Urine will excrete out albumin and protein, so urine sediments will be seen. So urine sediments will be present, albumin will be present in the urine. Okay, so the lung part is important for us. So there will be infiltrations. Once again I'll repeat, there will be cavitations. The difference between tuberculosis and vaginous is vaginous will have thick walled cavitatory nodules, whereas tuberculosis cavitations are not so thick walled. So these will have multiple thick walled cavitatory nodules. They can present with diffuse bilateral consolidation, and that is patient will present with diffuse alveolar hemorrhage. He'll present with you with the symptom of massive hemoptysis. He'll land up in emergency. You will do a X-ray CT scan. You will find multiple nodules, multiple cavitations, a diffuse alveolar hemorrhage picture, plus go through the history, ask for upper airway involvement, ask for renal history. You will reach to a diagnosis of vaginal granulomatosis. And very rarely the patient can have pneumothorax also, because it is a diseased lung. The parenchyma has already been destroyed, so there can be pneumothorax also. Now, after lungs, some minor involvements are also there. That is, there can be neuropathy. Okay, there can be skin involvement, and what you will see in skin involvement, so skin involvement, there will be digital gangrene, there can be strawberry gingiva, okay, and eyes I've already told you. You have also tarsal conjunctivitis, and there will be anterior uveitis also. So most of the connective tissue diseases, vasculitic disorders, they cause anterior uveitis. One of the differentiating features from ocular tuberculosis is that ocular tuberculosis will present with posterior uveitis. Remember this thing just for your practice, that all the connective tissue disease and all the vasculitis, they will present with anterior uveitis. And one of the confusing thing is ocular tuberculosis, it will present with posterior uveitis. For your practice. All right. Moving ahead, how will you evaluate this patient? The most important part in the evaluation, whenever the patient comes to you in emergency, in acute exacerbation, and he is having hemoptysis, dyspnea, respiratory failure, you do an X-ray, you find very multiple patch opacities, nodules, multiple cavitations, thick wall cavitations. So you will properly ask the history of the patient. So history is very, very important. So for making any diagnosis, history part is very important. So all the constitutional symptoms will be present. There will be history of arthralgias also. The patient can complain of multiple joint pain, myalgias and arthralgias. Third, look at the skin. As I've already told you, there can be digital gangrene. So look at the skin lesions. Then look for upper respiratory symptoms. Very important, because 90% of the patients will have these upper respiratory symptoms. That is your rhinorrhea, sinusitis, epistaxis. All these are upper respiratory symptoms. Patient will present with chronic cough, and if the disease has worsened, it may present with hemoptysis also, and there will be diffuse alveolar hemorrhage. There can be blood in urine, and also urinary segments, albumin already seen when kidney is involved. And look at the eye. Patient will complain of visual disturbances. And why visual disturbances? Because uveitis has occurred. So send the patient for ophthalmologic opinion, and they will find out that yes, there is some conjunctivitis, there is anterior uveitis. After looking at the history part, look at the physical examination. So whatever history you have taken, everything you have to look in your physical examination part. So patient may have nasal ulcers also, oral ulcers also. Okay, he may have, as we have already told, upper respiratory tract involved. He may complain of hearing loss or deafness, complete deafness, कि उसको बिल्कुल सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है. Okay, skin. Look at the lesions. There can be purpuras, so palpable purpuras and gangrenes. So palpable purpuras can be there. Then there can be motor weakness. There can be sensory loss. Okay, so all these are the physical examination. So history and physical examination. After that, go towards laboratory parameters. So I always emphasize on history. Even in your routine clinical practice, never jump into your straight away investigations. Whenever we are putting questions in our practical groups, the purpose of the question is to make you evaluate the history of the patient. Always when we put a clinical question, students straight away write the answers: blood investigation, X-ray, CT scan, angiography. No, don't go haphazardly to investigations. First, evaluate. Your 70% of the diagnosis should come out with the history itself. Then once you are clear with a few 3 to 4 differential diagnoses, now you go for basic lab investigations. So go for CBCs, LFT, KFT. You have to look for the renal status, look for the urine status, so urine cultures. Okay, then main is your ANCA test. So ANCA has two parts. One is proteinase 3 and second is myeloperoxidase. And the method is ELISA, through which we prefer doing this ANCA test. So this Wegener's is primarily proteinase 3 ANCA positive, and 10% of the cases of these Wegener's can be ANCA negative also. So that is why we say never rely only on investigation. It is not 100% that patient will come out to be ANCA positive. 10% of cases are there in which there will be ANCA negative cases also. Okay, and other investigations, as we have already seen, CBC, serum creatinine, urine analysis, urine segments. Okay, what you will find in CBC, you can find leukocytosis, because patient can have infection also. There can be thrombocytosis also, because it is inflammatory condition. So thrombocytosis will be there. There can be normocytic, normochromic anemias. Okay, then your ESR and CRP levels, they can be raised. Okay, then other than ANCA, some other tests for this connective tissue diseases and all, you have to do your complete ANA profile to look for any other associated connective tissue disorders. Look for anti-GBM antibodies, because anti-GBM can also be associated with Wegener's, good pastures and all. Serum C3, C4 complement levels you have to check. Check the cryoglobulins levels. Okay, go for tuberculosis screening, because one of the important mimicry diagnosis is tuberculosis, and go for blood cultures to look for other sources of infections. After that, doing all these laboratory parameters, you will go for radiological investigations. And what you need to do in radiology, your basic, first is your chest x-ray, and second is your CT scans. And what all things you will find in CT scans, we've already discussed. There can be nodules, there can be cavitations, there can be alveolar opacities, there can be pleural base lesions, okay. And along with CT chest, you can also go for CT neck, because upper respiratory tract is involvement. You can go for CT head also, okay. And the gold standard test is tissue biopsy. And from where you have to do this biopsy? Either from skin or from kidney, okay. And when you do the tissue biopsy from kidney, you will find rapidly progressive glomerulonephritic changes with crescents. This will be the histopathological findings. What will be the differential diagnosis for vaginas? So your first DD will be your tuberculosis, that is any sort of infection can be there. Second is your Churg-Strauss, because it is again ANCA-associated vasculitis. Third, again PAM, microscopic polyangiitis, MPA. Fifth, it will be your anti-GBM disease, anti-GBM antibody disease. Sixth is your malignancy. So all these will be your differential diagnosis. So history part is very, very important. Okay, and the last important part is the management part. First, if it is a life-threatening disease, means the patient has come into your emergency in a very bad condition. So life-threatening or organ-threatening disease. So if it is a life-threatening or organ-threatening disease, you will first start with the induction therapy. In the induction therapy, you will start with what? Our basic glucocorticosteroids, plus you can either give rituximab or cyclophosphamide. Now, various trials have been done on these rituximab and cyclophosphamide, and the results have shown that almost both the drugs are equally important. I mean, equally effective. It is not that rituximab is better than cyclo or cyclo is better than rituximab. Both the drugs are equally better. So, depending on patient to patient, physician to physician, the decision varies. Okay. So, if you are giving rituximab or you are giving cyclophosphamide, the dose of rituximab will be either 1 gram rituximab followed by 1 gram 14 days later. Okay. Either you can follow this protocol, 1 gram stat followed by 1 gram 14 days later, or it is also given as 375 milligram per meter square per week. You have to mug up the doses, no other option. Okay, and this 375 milligram per meter square per week is to be given for 4 weeks. And the trial which was done, that was RAVE trial for rituximab. So R for RAVE and R for rituximab. Okay, C for cyclophosphamide and C for Cyclops trial, that was done for cyclophosphamide. Okay, so the dose of cyclophosphamide IV is 15 milligram per kg every 2 weeks for 3 doses. Okay, so for 3 doses you will give 15 milligram per kg every 2 weeks, and then you will give every 3 weeks. ठीक है, so पहले 3 डोज आप हर 2-2 हफ्ते में दोगे और उसके बाद हर 3-3 हफ्ते में दोगे, and this to be given for 3 to 6 months. If the patient's EGFR is not good, so EGFR is less than 30, means renal is involved. So instead of 15 milligram, you will reduce the dose to half, that is 7.5 milligram per kg, again for every 2 weeks. Okay, and after that you can shift the patient to oral therapy, that is 1.5 to 2 milligram per kg per day until stable remission has been attained. So until a stable remission has been attained, you have to maintain the dose of cyclophosphamide. Okay. Your WBC counts should be more than 3500 per microliter before giving cyclophosphamide, and your absolute neutrophilic count should be more than 1500 per microliter before starting cyclophosphamide. Okay, so you were giving rituximab, you were giving cyclophosphamide in these 2 proper doses, and along with this you have to give your pulse glucocorticosteroid, that is methylprednisolone 1 gram per day for 3 days, followed by prednisolone 1 milligram per kg per day, and slowly and gradually you have to taper the glucocorticosteroids. Okay, so when you are tapering it to 1 milligram per kg per day, maximum dose what you can give is 60 to 80 milligrams, not more than that. Okay, and some, in very worse condition, some doctors also use rituximab plus cyclophosphamide plus steroids, means all the 3 combination, but trials are still going on because it is a very deadly combination. Patient will land them into severe immunocompromised state. Okay, and the last thing, just for your practical point of view, some newer drugs that have been developed, if they can ask you, one is avacopan. Just remember this for your vivas, especially the DNB students. So avacopan is a new drug that has been developed. It is C5a receptor, that is complement receptor inhibitor. The dose is 30 milligram oral in BD dose, plus along with this you give glucocorticosteroids, taper glucocorticosteroids over 4 to 6 weeks depending on the response of this drug. So depending on the response. Okay, and before starting these drugs, pre-LFT monitoring should be there. Pre-LFT should be monitored. So this has recently been introduced in January 2024 or 2025 only, and trials are still going on, but this can be asked in Viva, which is a newer drug that has been introduced for your vasculitis disorders. Okay, so this was the induction therapy. So after induction therapy, we need to maintain the patient on a therapy. So what will be your maintenance therapy? So for maintenance therapy, in most of the patients, again we prefer rituximab. So in most of the patients, prefer rituximab or maintenance therapy. And other than rituximab, we can also try azathioprine, methotrexate, or you can try MMF. Your dose of azathioprine will be rituximab will be 500 to 1000 milligram, but now it is a maintenance therapy, so you have to give every 6 months. Azathioprine, it is 1 to 2 milligram per kg per day in almost all the vasculitic disorders. We have discussed it multiple times. Methotrexate, you will start with 15 milligram per week. Then you increase the dose of 5 milligram per week every 2 to 8 weeks. So analyze the patient and every 2 to 8 weeks increase the dose with 5 milligram per week, and maximum you can give it up to 25 milligram per week, not more than that. So this is the maximum limit you can take methotrexate, and along with methotrexate you have to give folinic acid, and this is 5 to 10 milligram per week, and this has to be given 24 hours after giving methotrexate. And third is your MMF, which is 1.5 to 3 gram daily dose. Ideal duration, nobody knows. But yes, at least for 12 to 24 months after a stable remission has been attained. So after a stable remission, you can continue these drugs. And if there is a high risk of relapse, you can continue these drugs further for 24 to 36 months also. So it all again depends on patient to patient, physician to physician. Okay, and some other measurements: prevention of opportunistic infections, you will give to prevent PCP. So there is increased chances of pneumocystis carini pneumonia, so you have to give Septran, that is your trimethoprim. Sulfamethoxazole combination. Okay, and this has to be given 960 milligram, that is 800 by 160, and you give it 3 times per week, means every alternate day you have to give it. Okay, if there is ANCA-associated vasculitis plus anti-GBM is also positive, this is more deadly disease, but first here you have to treat anti-GBM disease because it is more severe. So first treat anti-GBM disease and then go for treatment of ANCA-associated, and primarily for anti-GBM disease you have to go for plasmapheresis. There is no much role of plasmapheresis in this Wegener's, but yes, if it is anti-GBM positive, you have to first do plasmapheresis and then along with this start the immunosuppressive therapy, so that it will target both ANCA as well as anti-GBM therapy. Okay, so this completes your treatment part of, I think it is visible. Yeah. So this is your complete Wegener's granulomatosis. Very important question and one of the most favorite questions of examiners also.